In Ois Tes, the Rebbe will explain how come we only are talking about the two kavim. We talk about Torah, Bamishpat, Tefdahet, and then we talk about Tzedakah mitzvahs, Torah mitzvahs. What about the kav ha'avodah, the karbonis, tefillah? How come it's not mentioned? The Rebbe says that actually that's really included, but the main thing is Torah, and the main thing is tzedakah. In all of the levels that we had talked before, there is the two levels, the two kavim, but it also includes in each one of these kavim. So while we talk about ציון, you need Torah, but it's not just Torah, it's really all three kavim. When we talk about mitzvahs and we talk about shaveho, that you need tzedakah, which is mitzvahs, we also need all three kavim. Let's look inside. Test. Based on the above, we'll understand that on this pasuk he really only talks about the two matters, which is the Torah. We talk about mishpat, and we also talk about tzedakah. We talk about Torah and tzedakah, which tzin b'mishpat tefdahet v'shaveh b'tzedakah. Af sheyeshnam gimel kavim. Even though there are three kavim. So you have Torah, tzedakah, and tefillah. But over here, we're only talking about Torah and tzedakah. So he says, Ki hakavone be'inyan ha-Torah, which is mishpat, u-tzedakah, b'pasuk zeh, because the intent of Torah, mishpat, tzedakah, in this pasuk, hilishnei sugim haklolim. The Rebbe explained earlier that Torah is a koi loy koi dvorai ko'esh. That's like the idea of ציון, in which there could be no tumah, and the tzedakah mitzvahs get dressed up. It's like the neshama that dresses up in the body, in which it's bihislapshus and it struggles. The same as the mitzvahs are mevarer the gashmi yisolam. So the intent of saying Torah and tzedakah, ilishnei sugim haklolim. These are the two general categories as we talk about tzedakah and about Torah and tzedakah, shebechol habechinas, which is in all levels of the olam shona v'nefesh, as the Rebbe has explained, that in all areas, sai in olam and sai in shona and sai in nefesh, we have these two categories. Over here is the level of two, the different categories, as the Rebbe explained, whether it's tzadikim and tshuva, or it's in zman hakayitz and zman hachoyref, they're all divided into two categories. That's the general, is the two categories in all the levels of olam, shona, v'nefesh. And we also find these two is similar to, we say, al derech zeh or inyan de oiros v'kelim. Talk about oiros and kelim. We talked about before shomayim and oretz, the feminine, the masculine. It's all, this is divided in a general way in two, in oiros v'kelim, or shem havai v'shem elikim v'chulu. This is the intent over here to talk about in all levels about these two categories. But ubechol echad, in each one of these categories, whether it is in the level of ציון, or it's in the level of Shaveh, or in olam shana v'nefesh, you need tzarich liyas havodah b'chol gimul hakavim. We need the service in all three lines, three areas. Ki hapedia mehagolus, because when we talk about the redemption of Golus, really we need everything. Whether we talk about the redemption of ציון or we talk about the redemption of Shoveho, we always need all three kavim. B'chol echad tzarich liyas aved b'chol gimel kavim. Kabadia mahagolus, because to get redeemed from exile. Now, this is hein binyonim elu. Whether we talk about the level of ציון, which is in the different olam shona nefesh, it would be mored Torah v'tzadikim. That would be the level of masters of Torah or tzadikim. That's the level in the nefesh, that one category. Or when we talk about in Mokim, Eretz Yisrael, which is in olam, or when we talk about in the year B'yomin Zakoin, that's the shona. So when you are trying to redeem from the Golus in the level of the ציון, shepdiyosam hagolus hu be'ofen the ציון b'mishpat Torah tipoda, you're taking it out mishpat through Torah, it doesn't mean in these areas we're also going to need the three kavim. And the same thing is v'hein binyonim elu, or whether it's in these matters. We talk about the shoveho. This is whether it's morei uvdin tovinu bal tshuva, masters of good deeds, and the bal tshuva, which is the level in which is the shoveho, or eretz ha'amim, the mainland of the nation, versus this is would be in olam, or v'yomim shem hepech haschus, or in days in Shana, it will be the days which are opposite of Zuchus, as the 9 days, the 3 weeks, Tisha B'Av and Shavasa B'Tammuz, as the Rabbi mentioned before. That is redeemed Sheveh B'Tzedakah. So whether we're talking about the ציון, in which we said B'Mishpat, or we talk about the Shoveho, in Olam Shana Nefesh, in all category, that is through the word, the service in all of the three kavim. So you need Torah in each one. You need Torah, Avodah, or Gemilus Chasodim. You need all. What's the proof for that? Because over here it just seems to say that Torah, and it just talks about tzedakah. So it seems by the issues of ציון in Olam Shana Nefesh would be sufficient, the level of Torah alone, because it says just ציון B'Mishpat, and then when it comes to the level of Vishovel, seems like it should be sufficient just the union of mitzvahs, because over there it says tzedakah in all aspects in Olam Shana Nefesh. Why are we saying that you need all three? Because the Rebbe says we need all three, K'Mamer Azal. As the saying of our sages of blessed memory, so over there we mention all three things. One who occupies himself in Torah, and then it's Gemilus Chasodim, which is mitzvahs. Then we have Avedus, the Karbonis, and Tfilis, which is Mokum Karbonis, or the sages say ilu pedoani li is as if you have redeemed me, the pedia, the pedoani, the tzin b'mishpat the li ulebonai mibeinu masoilim. You have taken me out from amongst the nations of the world, and so you see, and this pedia is both the shovel and the tzin b'mishpat. But these are all Shepediyas HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'Yisrael mibein umas ha'olam. How is the redemption of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Yidden from amongst umas ha'olam? Li ulevonai, me and my children. I mean, how do we come out from this exile, from the umas ha'olam? Hi al yidei ha'avodah b'chol gimul hakavim. It's in the avodah in all three lines. And there's also not just Torah, avodah, gemilas chasadim, tefillah. We're saying b'tzibur, u'ba'ofen shel tzibur, mispalel matzibur. And this is like we explained earlier, earlier, the Rebbe explained the idea of ציון, that in the Pasuk, the Lamer ציון, Ami Oto, that comes as a hemshech to the inyan of Torah and Ba'osim Dvarei Beficha B'Tzel Yodei Kisisicha L'Ntoya Shemayim V'Lisod Oretz, which is the three avodas of all Chol Gimel Kavim, who are there V'Dosim B'Chol Gimel HaKavim. The Yisayim Mizu, we're not just talking about Stam, but we're talking Shekol Gimel HaKavim Heim B'Shleimus, that is in a wholesome way. The Rebbe spoke about the idea, Osim Dvorei B'Ficha, that's the total bittul, that it's Dvorei, the Inyan of B'Tzel Yodi Kisisicha, it's also the level of bittul, and the same with Torah Shemayim by Karbonis, which means it's on the highest level, Torah Avodah Gemilas Chasodim. Why is it mentioned in this passage just by Mishpat and just Tzedakah? Mashekosu ציון b'mishpat, which is Torah Tipoda, ulefi she'apediya debchinas ציון, because the redemption of the level of ציון, which in all three levels, b'chol gimel ha'bechinas, in all of the three levels of the Olam, Shana, and Nefesh, he be'ikir al yidei ha'Torah. It's mainly through Torah. So it's mainly same thing is also when we talk about this second part, that the shoveho, those in captivity, is tzedakah, sha'apediya the shoveho, b'chol gimel ha'bchinas, that how do we redeem those captives in all three levels, the olam, shona, nefesh, hi al yidei ha'avodah b'chol gimel ha'kavim, davke, that is really all gimel kavim. So why does the pasuk specifically say tzedakah? Because how is the redemption of captivity? It's mainly through tzedakah, but we need all three kavim of Torah, Avodah, or Gemilas Chasodim. And the Rebbe adds a further point that even in mitzvahs itself, we also have the Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasodim for the mitzvah. The halacha of the mitzvah is the Torah. The mitzvah itself is the act, and the Avodah is the halacha, the elevation that is brought about by the mitzvah. That's what the Rebbe adds now. In addition to having all three, mainly, but actually in mitzvahs itself, we have all three. That gam be'inyan ha-mitzvahs gufa, even in the idea of mitzvahs itself, the tzedakah closes ha-mitzvah. That's why it's represented shavel b'tzedakah as the general mitzvah canal, as we said earlier. And that's the tzedakah means all mitzvahs, but yesh kol gimel hakavin, we have all the three lines over there. Ha-halocha b'zeh, the law of the mitzvah shehu inyan ha-Torah, which is the concept that's Torah. Ha-asiya b'dover ha-gashmi shehu hakav the gemilus chasodim. The doing in the physical matter, that's the line, that's the gemilus chasodim, the act of kindness. And then the third thing is haloas hagashmi, the elevation of the physical, sha'isim bei ha-mitzvah. When you elevate the physical thing that you do the mitzvah, shehu kav ha-avodah, that is the line of avodah. So it's all within the mitzvahs. Why is the kav avodah considered the raising the halos hagashmi? Because that's what it says by the korbanos. By korbanos nemar, by korbanos it is said the reyach nichoyach. It's a pleasant aroma. Shereyach, the idea of an aroma, a smell, who inyan ha'aloha milmata l'maylo, that is bringing up from below to above, bringing back the chayis of the person, the chayin, the tefillah. Likewise, the tefillah shekeneged karbonis. So we talk about avodah, literally the karbonis, and also the same thing is true in the tefillah, which corresponds to the karbonis. Is al zenemar there too? It says sulam mutzav artza v'reishay magia hashamaymo. There is a ladder that stays on the ground. The top, the head of it goes up to the sky. That's the elevation from davening. That's the in place of the karbonis. So noisef. So here we have Torah, Avodah, Gemilus Chasadim was in the mitzvah. And this is Naisef al Hayadua. This is in addition to that which is known. Shabachol mitzvah yesh gimul ha'inyonim. That in every mitzvah there is three parts to the mitzvah. The mitzvah, the way it's in machshava, in thought. The mitzvah, the way it's in dibur, and the mitzvah, the way it's in ma'isa or ma'isa, machshava de ma'isa. Shehem gimul hakavim. That is the three lines of Torah and Avodah Gemilus Chasadim. So now the Rebbe explains also another aspect in the pasuk that we say, "Kol" in the pasuk "Tefdahani li ulevonai mebeina umes." So, what is the saying of our sages in the Gemara? How do they say it? Kol ha'isek b'Torah, first Torah. The normal order is Torah Avodah Gemilus Chasadim, as in Pirkei Avos. But over there in the Mamer Chazal, it says Kol ha'isek b'Torah, and then it says Gemilus Chasadim u'mispalel limatzibur. So we use the tzibur, the avodah, as the last thing, because it says how come it's out of order? It's Torah and mitzvahs, milos chasodim, and then avodah, because now we just explained that Tzin b'mishpat tefadeh v'shover b'tzedakah, the main ways of getting out of galus of the Tzin and the shover is to Torah mitzvahs, but we also need the level of tefillah. That's why the third kav. That's why it comes in this Mamer Chazal, which talks about Peda'ani, comes last. The Rabbi says, "Valpi hanal." So based on the above, Yuvon Gam Sidron Shel Gimel Dvarim Elu. We'll also understand the order of the three things of Torah, Avodah, and Gemilus Chasadim, b'Mamer Chazal hanal, in the above mentioned saying of our sages. It says Torah, Gemilus Chasadim, and then Utfilah. And that's like you say that Haragel. This is unusual. It's not the normal order in which is Torah, Avodah, Gemilus Chasadim. Because generally, in this idea of redeeming me and my sons from the umas, who are the esek b'Torah Gemilus Chasadim, that is through the occupation in Torah Gemilus Chasadim. That's the main. Tzin b'mishpat tefadeh v'shover b'tzedakah, as in this pasuk, it doesn't mention tefillah, just mishpat and tzedakah. Those are the general two inyanim that take you out, the tzin and the shover. Ela shebechol inyan, but in every matter, b'frad b'inyan abdim ha'golus, especially when we talk about going out of the golus, tzarich liyus gol kol gimel hakavim. There need to be all three kavim. That's why the last thing is added. Umispalel limatzibur, because there needs to be mispalel limatzibur as well. So this is what it says, that Tzin v'mishpat tipodeh, and the captives with tzedakah. Shapasik zeh nikva b'haftorah the Shabbos shelifnei Tisha B'av. This verse has been set up in the haftorah of the Shabbos that precedes Tisha B'av. The Shabbos, my name is Baruch and Kulu Yomim. From Shabbos, all days are blessed, Koilul Tisha B'av, which includes Tisha B'av. So the fact that Tisha B'av is preceded by the verse of Tzin, B'mishpat Tipodeh, B'shover B'tzedakah, tell us how to get out of this situation of Golus, of the idea of Tisha B'av. Is like the Eibishter is Magdim Refula Makrif Shazel Bedugmas Hanhagose shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So similar to the conduct of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shemagdim refuah lemaka. He proceeds to give the healing before he gives the makkah, before he gives the smiting. So the Eibishter gives us the tzim and mishpat tipot before Tisha B'Av. Sherefuah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the healing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in a powerful way, not that you get sick and then he heals you, but he shel melechatchila, as the pasuk says, lo yosim alacha. Hashem does not put it in you lechatchila, so it's a refuah lemaka, not that you will have the makkah, but in a way that there will be no makkah. By Yideza poilim hapadia, the kol echad ve'echad v'Yisrael. That way we impact the redemption of each and every one of the Jewish people by the Torah, by reading the Tzim B'Mishpat Tepodem in both areas, Hein bin Nishmose, Hein begufe b'nefesh habahamis, both in his soul and in his body, in the animal soul, which are the two levels of Tzyon and the level of Shaveho. Shebediyas anishama, redeeming the soul, he bechlolus ba'ofen the Tzyon B'Mishpat Tepodem. Generally speaking, that's in the way of Tzyon B'Mishpat Tepodem, because before we talked within the soul, you have the Rosh, the Lirosh, and you have the Regel, but in generally, the Neshama is the Tzyon B'Mishpat Tepodem. And then the redemption of the Guf and the Nefesh HaBahamis, who be'ofen the V'shaveh B'Tzdaka. That's in a way of V'shaveh B'Tzdaka, because they get caught up in the negativity. Kimuva Mamvur Betanya is understood from what explained in the Tanya. Shaneshama Atzvo Ein Tziricha Tikkun Klal. The neshama itself does not require any correction, no fixing. The reason it came down below is in order to correct and fix the body of the Nefesh HaBahamis. So in order for the Torah and the Tzedakah to have the elevation, so we have these two areas, we have Torah and Tzedakah. But we needed tefillah, we needed to go up above. That way you will impact the actual redemption. That comes through davening, which is the kav ha'avodah kinal, the line of the service avodah, as we said earlier in the Mamer, that you need also the level of tefillah. Yud Aleph. Through service in all these three lines. Earlier generations, we said, so it was ki'ilu. It says, if you redeemed me, it's bechof hadimyan, a chof which is like, as if, but it's not the actual redemption. As he explains about how this is in the personal redemption, it says if. That is in the earlier generations, as opposed to now, at present, behold, he is standing behind the wall already. Mashiach is here behind the wall, ready to be revealed. Okay, as known, the talk of the Baal HaGeula, the ones whose redemption, the Yud Beis Tammuz is following. This was already in the month of Av, but this comes right after Yud Beis Tammuz, the redemption of Yud Beis Tammuz. So the Frierdiker Rebbe said, "Shekvar nigbaru kol habirurim." All the things that need to be sorted out have been completed. But tzorich rak tzuputzun de kneplach. You also need to polish up the buttons. That's the last step before the coming of Mashiach. So now when hine achshav ha'idea esek b'Torah b'gemilas chasodim u'tfilim hatzibor, when we occupy ourselves in Torah and the gemilas act of kindness mitzvahs, and we daven with the minyan, there will be redemption mamish. In a way, shall poda b'sholem nafshi, a redemption in a peaceful way. That will be in a peaceful way. Ki amitis or inyan the pedia b'sholem, the true concept of redemption in a peaceful way. Tia b'bis Mashiach davke, HaMashiach davke. That will be when Mashiach comes. Davke then, K'moshe Mevayir, Kveit Kidushas Admur HaEmtzoi, as the Mittler Rebbe explains this. V'zeu gamkein, Mashekosov Admur HaZokin, this is also Shekod that Alter Rebbe wrote, Begeres HaKodesh Eloi Bevoye Bepeterburg, in the holy letter that he wrote when he came from Peterburg, he said, Ukshar Koroi Irisi B'Sefer Tehillim, when I was reading in the book of Tehillim, the pasuk in the verse, Poda b'sholem nafshi chulu, Yotzosi b'sholem Hashem sholem, I have gone out in peace from Hashem sholem. Dehine yodua she'iker ha'inyan, so that's because we're saying now that it's connected to the coming of Mashiach. And that connects to the fact that the Alter Rebbe said the pasuk, "Poda b'sholem nafshi," because at that point was the beginning of the galus of Mashiach, because Yefutzu b'nesecha chutza. She'ikero inyan the Yefutzu b'nesecha chutza, the main idea of spreading the wellsprings, your wellspring, the wellsprings of the Baal Shem Tov Chassidus, as the Baal Shem Tov was told by Mashiach, Yefutzu ma'inisecha chutza, that huschol achri Peterburg, that became after Peterburg. V'lochein yotze b'sholem k'shekora b'posuk poda b'sholem nafshi. That is why he was able to go out. He left in peace when he read the verse poda b'sholem nafshi. Ki iker ha'inyan the poda b'sholem. Because the main idea, as the Rebbe is explaining over here, that's in the future redemption. But since Yafutzu Ma'nisecha Chutza, which began the spreading the wellsprings to the outside, began with the Alter Rebbe's freedom from Peterburg, is Ha'achona Lazeh, that's the preparation for the Master coming, for Mashiach coming. And that is why it's associated with the pasuk of Poda b'sholem nafshi, which is really when Mashiach comes to the time of the Alter Rebbe's freedom, because the Alter Rebbe's after Peterburg was the Yefutzu b'nesecha chutza that brings the Geula Hasidah, the Kosumar. And through this of the Poda b'sholem nafshi, Pasach, the Alter Rebbe opened up the Solo Saderach, and he threaded through the path. Shekol echad ve'echad yochel, that each and every one is able to, and since he's able to, v'lachein tzorichu, that's why he's required. Lasig ba'achonazu, to occupy in this preparation. Ulhavi es ha'geula, and to bring the redemption. Al yidei sheyases atol liboy, by doing that which is up to him, to the person. Kupsak Rambam, as the Rambam rules, shal yidei pu'ula achas. All what it takes is one act. Hein b'maisa, whether it is in action, hein b'dibur, or in speech, hein b'machshava, or in thought. He tilts himself and the world, entire world, to the side, to the scale of merit. He brings him, causes himself and to them, to his own and to the world, a salvation and a savior. It becomes redeeming my soul with peace. Redeeming me and my children from the nations of the world. Very soon, very soon, as in Aramaic, in the true and the complete redemption through Mashiach Tzidkenu.